No doubt about it. This is weird.
From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you are listening to this program. I am Frosty, and tonight I'm going to be flying solo with our guests. So welcome in, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful evening on this Monday. Yeah, we were supposed to get some snow this weekend, but nothing really happened. And now they're calling for, a week out. They're calling for the storm of all storms here in the on the East Coast and the South next weekend, with possible ice storms and things like that. So it's bound to be an interesting week, and we got a great show to start that week off tonight. We're going to be talking to a wonderful guest, Darcy Staniforth. We're going to be talking about all kinds of paranormal as we prepare ourselves for the Hanover Tavern Paracon, which is going to be coming up very, very soon. So welcome in, one and all. Glad to have you here tonight. So excited to see everyone in here. I guess we should start off tonight by saying, if you can, send some little healing and a little prayers to Jenny tonight. She has been under the weather all day today and is not feeling good at all. So she's not with me tonight. So this is, usually we've had other guest co-hosts before, so this will be the first time either one of us run this thing solo tonight. So off we go. So yeah, prayers and healing would be great. I guess we should start off mentioning we have Team Weird Takeover tickets still up for sale. That's going to be this June 27th and 28th at the Lord Baltimore Hotel in Baltimore, Maryland. We're going to have a whole day and investigation tonight with all kinds of wonderful guests. Sam Baltrusis, Andrew Warburton, Kim Sage, Danica and Irene are going to be there with us, along with our own Alice and the Priestess of Wonderland. And just, it's going to be a magnificent time. We're going to do a seance and all kinds of things that are going to be going on that day. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, you can go to the witchinghourspodcast.com, click on the merch store, and that'll take you right to our fourth wall store where you can purchase your ticket, $60, and that gets you in and participation in everything. So tickets are limited. I would say we probably have about a third of them sold so far. So there's still time, but I, at this point, would be anticipating a sellout at some point. So if you want to get tickets, make sure you get them before they're gone. So we have that taken care of. And I guess I should go ahead and say as well, if you are listening to us live, that's wonderful. So glad to have you in here. If you're listening to us at another time in another place, always feel free to go click that subscribe button and all those things you have to do on the different sites because it really does help people be able to find our show, which means we get to have more cool discussions. So thank you for doing that. We surely do appreciate it. And now I guess we can go ahead and get into some weird news. So pretty interesting tonight. Found some articles. First one we have is the top Loch Ness monster hunter gives final verdict after 52 years of searching. A man who has spent more than 5 decades trying to track down the Loch Ness monsters reckons he's actually been on a wild goose chase. Adrian Shine believes that the so-called sightings at the famous body of water in the Scottish Highlands actually have a rather mundane explanation, which don't involve the mythical creature. The naturalist, 76 years old, has been looking into the large long-necked monster known as Nessie since 1973, and even led a major sonar exploration in Loch Ness back in 1987. But even though his team was armed with over £1 million worth of equipment, or American dollars, they didn't find any concrete evidence that the Loch Ness Monster actually exists. However, he has now revealed that he became skeptical about the existence of the mythical creature he has dedicated his life to finding after believing he had spotted one of its humps, which turned out to be a rock. Shine explained that he believes that the countless sightings of Nessie that people have reported are actually a result of ship wakes. And he goes on to explain that these ship wakes he thinks is causing rocks to be uncovered that are what's happening in the photos of Loch Ness. And I guess the thing for him he was talking about is the evidence that there possibly wouldn't be enough food sources in Loch Ness for such a creature is one of the things that's lead him to finally stop the chase of Loch Ness after 52 years. So there we go. He does say that he will leave open the possibility of returning if other evidence is uncovered. So Loch Ness, one less person looking, but possibly for one person who stops looking, there's probably two more who begin looking. So we'll see what keeps going on with Loch Ness and the monster there. Story number 2, largest crowdsourced hunt for alien intelligence reveals 12 billion signals of interest in collapsed Arecibo Observatory data. One of the largest searches for alien intelligence in history is nearing completion, thanks to the help of more than 2 million citizen scientists in the legendary Arecibo Observatory. Launched in 1999, the SETI at Home project enlisted millions of volunteers around the world to help identify unusual radio signals from the Arecibo Observatory. A massive radio telescope in Puerto Rico that collapsed in 2020, which I don't remember hearing about the collapse of this. So this was news to me due to a cable failure. Though the project ended prematurely with the telescope's demise, citizen scientists nonetheless identified more than 12 billion signals of interest in 21 years of data. Now, the researchers behind the project have narrowed that daunting list to the top 100 candidate signals, which they are studying in detail with China's 500-meter aperture spherical telescope, or FAST, now the world's largest single-dish radio telescope following the death of Arecibo. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, is a branch of science that aims to detect and communicate those radio signals, of course. And then, so they're going to be going over that. They're going to be going over the top 100 signals that they thought were interesting that could be extraterrestrial communication, and they're going to begin looking for those signals. So there we go. Top 100 contenders. I feel like that's a good place to start. So we'll see if they get any information out of that. Ginny said it's a weather balloon. I thought Ginny was asleep. So there we go. Welcome in, Ginny. How are you doing? Medium Ginny Lee. Boo to the no Loch Ness. Is that what we're booing here? Hoaxers didn't hear about the Arecibo satellite going down either, which is, I used to keep up with SETI quite a bit. So I didn't hear about that. So that's interesting. So that's what we have for story number 2. A couple more tonight. I'm going through these really quick because I don't have my hecklefish here with me to interrupt my news readings. Story number 3, new model fails to explain near-death experiences. And this comes right from our hometown here in Virginia. An ambitious effort to create a neurophysiological paradigm to explain near-death experiences has failed to capture many fascinating and often perplexing aspects of people's brushes with death, top University of Virginia experts argue in a new paper. UVA near-death researchers Bruce Grayson and Marietta Pelavanova laud the international team of scientists who developed the model, called Neurophysiological Evolutionary Psychological Theory Understanding Near-Death Experience, or to shorten that up a little bit, Neptune. The Neptune team aimed to bring scientific rigor to understanding near-death experiences, a goal shared by Grayson and Pilavanova. But the U of A experts say the model, for all of its sophistication, leaves far too many unanswered questions to be considered a satisfactory solution to the mysteries of NDEs. They say the Neptune model was a pioneering attempt to explain NDEs, but it's selectively ignored scientific evidence that contradicts the model and failed to address some of the most important and defining parts of NDEs. So they've come out with a new paper. They outline the many facets that the Neptune model cannot explain. For example, they say that Neptune researchers argue that near-death hallucinations could be caused by changes in blood-brain gases, endorphins, or other chemical or electrical activity in the brain. But these doctors note that the neurological hallucinations typically only involve a single sense, such as hearing or sight, and that those types of single sense hallucinations do not align with what the UVA researchers say. What are those robust and often life-changing encounters that people have with their near-death experiences, where they report being with loved ones. They can often recall, what they heard, what they smelled, what they touched while being dead. And so science in this case has not been able to disprove the evidence that they are getting for NDEs at the University of Virginia. And then lastly for tonight, we have want to book a hotel on the moon. Planning a trip for 2032? You might want to start saving up for a stay at the first hotel on the moon, a highly ambitious new project from a California-based company looking to take adventure tourism off planet. GRU Space, short for Galactic Resource Utilization, to open applications for a spot at its proposed lunar hotel. Wealthy space source, not Hoaxer's Hotel, not Hoaxer's Hotel, but space hotel, moon hotel. Wealthy space tourists can put their hat in the ring for a hefty deposit of $1 million to be the first guest at the company's hotel on the moon, with a planned opening date of 2032. You might be able to get like a Hoagie's Hoagie shop up there, though, at the hotel. You got to eat, right? The commercialization of the moon seems inevitable at this point, for sure. Lots of things going on with the moon recently. If all goes well with the first mission of taking kind of the lunar payloads up there, GRU Space hopes to launch a larger payload on a subsequent mission, so that they can launch a third mission, tentatively planned for 2032, where the company aims to deploy the first version of its hotel, an inflatable structure manufactured on Earth that I guess they're going to put down inside of like a crater inside the moon. So we will see. A lot of everything that we've been having to do with the moon has been delayed lately. So I don't know if anything is going to stay on track for what they're doing. You're working on it, hoaxsters, to get hoagies in space. I think hoagies in space is probably realistic, whereas the hotel, I'm not so sure, but it would be interesting to see. CMC says, I am still predicting an extraterrestrial exposure in 2026. Of course, we had our prediction show at the beginning of the month. I feel like a lot of people are on with this, possibly having some kind of disclosure in 2026. I don't know what that would look like. The moon, CMC Air Boss says the moon rocket from Boeing rolled out today, traveling to the launching pad. I'll have to look into that. I did not see that. Very interesting. All right. Well, we have a lot of things to talk about, and we can keep talking about some of these things we saw in the news if you guys would like to. But first, I would like to bring in our guest for this evening. Darcy Staniforth is an academic, historian, writer, performer, ghost host, and paranormal investigator. She has been interested in death and dying since she was very young, and that interest has carried into both her personal and professional life. Darcy holds a BA and an MA in American Studies. In addition to death, dying, and grief, her research areas include race and ethnicity, gender and sexuality, ideals and institutions, and the paranormal. In addition to supporting students in her work in higher education, she also serves as a paranormal coordinator for the Heritage Museum of Orange County and the director of tour operations for Haunted Orange County. She currently resides in a haunted house in Southern California. Please welcome to the show, Darcy Staniforth. How are you doing, Darcy?
Good, Frosty. How are you doing?
Wonderful. It's so good to have you on to be able to have a conversation tonight.
I'm excited. I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready. First of all, I'm not going to be the first person to book on the moon. I feel like maybe let that hotel room figure it out for a while.
Yeah.
Like when you go to a new restaurant that just opened and they're still figuring it out.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe that applies to the hotel on the moon too.
Yeah, let other people go across those unexpected things you got to work out, right?
Totally. I don't want to be the person our module had an air leak, or sorry, we couldn't get supplies to you.
Or the recent astronauts who couldn't get a ride back, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Could not get a ride. There's other. I love the idea of the hotel on the moon. How are we getting to and back from the moon?
Yeah.
And not to be morose, but I do think about the fact that we're coming up on the 40th anniversary of the Challenger explosion.
Yeah.
And as a Gen Xer, that is. That was childhood trauma, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm eager for personal space travel in the future, hopefully in our lifetime, just maybe not for the moon hotel.
Yeah, that was crazy. I'm right on the edge there.
Okay.
I was born in 80. So I remember the Challenger explosion. I wasn't in school yet to see the explosion, but my father was in the military. He was in the Navy.
Okay.
He was retired Navy, and he actually was out on one of the ships that went out to go pick up the pieces of the Challenger.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't think we have it anymore, but we used to have a home movie that one of his friends had shot and made a copy of them lifting the cone and stuff up out of the water.
That is so what a powerful thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, just being there when, with history, because I teach about that now. So, it's
Well, and the university I work at, we have what's called the McNair Scholars. And the McNair Scholars were formed out of Ronald McNair, who was on the Challenger. Wow. And his, wanting to make sure that the work that he was doing continues on. So it's all of those things that come together. And being in a staff meeting where not everyone was alive during that. So that happens a lot. I'm oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Medium Jenny Lee says, skipped it here. Medium Jenny Lee says, hi, Darcy. Sorry, I am missing this.
Jenny, I hope you feel good soon, my friend. I was sick a couple weeks ago, and it is not fun. So please get better. Please get better soon. I'm sending you all of the good healing vibes in that. And hi to Hoaxsters. Saw that hello as well. I'm also looking at the chat and then also talking to you too, Frosty. So I'm sad she's missing, but rest is so important.
It is. All right. So I guess, before we move on, is there any other news articles that you wanted to talk about before we get going? Your thoughts about Nessie or anything like that?
Here's the thing. I'm not ready to give up on Nessie yet. And, one of the things that I do in my critical thinking class with students is I have them think about a weird claim. And at the end, they can, they get to do two things. One, they can make their own call on the weird claim. Okay, what is the evidence you have? And how do you feel about this? But I also say it's more fun to believe. And to quote my friend Ryan Singer, and I still am hopeful that Nessie just is really good at being missed. So I'm not ready to give up on Nessie yet.
Yeah, you make a good point there. It is more fun to believe, isn't it? It is more fun. I'm kind of down the middle on it. I think that the lake monster, the mini lake monsters that have kind of been talked about around the world, to me it makes a little bit of sense. I mean, we know we had creatures like this, so you just have to have some amount to be able to survive. So I feel like it's not a completely lost, because even if it's not at Loch Ness, it could be and the many other huge lakes, right? That
Totally.
exist.
And
So,
I'm like, when you go to like the Great Lakes, like I don't know if you've had a chance to go there, but like Lake
yeah,
Superior's like an ocean. It's vast. And so to me, I'm like, let's just hold out. We just need, like you're saying, we just need a creature to survive. Maybe there's a tunnel system we don't know. Someone's going to come at me and
yeah,
be like, have you not read about what Loch Ness? Don't let me just have my whimsy,
yeah,
because things are a lot. And so I just want some whimsy in there.
yeah,
And Nessie is great. Like Nessie, Mothman, and Bigfoot can all hang out together
yeah.
and just have a great time. And maybe if we're in that more like people are in that interdimensional being thing, maybe
Hmm.
that's why we don't find Nessie. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. The
that's
more
very
I
true.
dive into this, the less I know. And as I think anyone in the paranormal will tell you, beware of the people who say, like, oh, I know all the things. You don't know all the things.
Exactly. Oh, that's like one of my biggest pet peeves, actually. So that's great.
Totally.
Um, cheesy. Is that cheesy in the Chesapeake or Chessie
Oh,
in the
Chessie in the
Chesapeake?
Chesapeake Bay. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's very sad because I don't know if I've heard of Chessie before, and I've lived by the Chesapeake Bay my whole life.
I have here on my bulletin board from the Lake Champlain monster.
Yes.
So I've got
Yes.
one
I've
of
heard of
those.
Champ.
Champ is always here with me in the office. Thanks to my pal AP Strange, who sent me that postcard. Why not? And J.W. Oker has a really great book about the United States of cryptids and basically the different cryptids in each state, and you get some lake
Mhm.
monsters and things like that. So those are, if you want to find out, do I have a local cryptid? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah.
or nearby at least.
Mhm. Well, I'm just out of curiosity, just because you brought that up. I think in Virginia, the most common cryptid that's seen here, I imagine, besides Bigfoot, which weirdly enough is called the Woodburger up in
Okay.
the western part of the state.
Yes, I have a
Um,
wood booger beanie.
oh, very nice, very nice. Is like a dog man. We have a lot of dog man
Yeah.
sightings in Virginia. What do you have out your way? What are some of the biggest sightings where you're at?
I mean, with Southern California, we definitely get a lot of UFO sightings, I would say,
Mhm.
because of the fact that one, military presence here, and then right off the coast, we had the Battle of Los Angeles. So
Yes.
UFOs are definitely a thing.
For
More
sure.
Northern California, we're dealing, I would say, more with cryptids, Bigfoot in
Mhm.
Northern California towards like redwoods and things like that. And then more southern, very southern California, closer to the border, I'd say we're dealing with like chupacabra sightings.
Okay.
I have,
That's what I was curious about, was chupacabra.
hold please.
Yeah.
I will, because I have a little handy map on the California creatures, which is
Excellent.
very
Oh, okay.
my handy map. So, Lake Elsinore supposedly has Elsie. I have not heard a ton, but there's LA with Hollywood, they think it's all lizard people, which I think is
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah. Hmm.
There is up in Fresno, we have the Fresno Nightcrawler, the Walking Pants, which are my kind of some of
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite.
Well, I have a story. Well, a little bit of a story about that. That's where Medium Jenny Lee is from, is Fresno originally. So I found that I was doing a little thing where I was just kind of trying to find all these different cryptids, and I came across them. And so we were joking around that they're Jenny's people.
Hey, it could be that's not a bad people to connect with, right?
Yeah.
Like a tall pair of pants. So yeah, we have some different things, but this was very handy. I was like, oh, this is really nice to have and be able to be looking at these different things. But apparently, and I was not paying enough attention, there's like 3 California lake monsters, which are Tessie in Lake Tahoe, Elsie and Lake Elsinore, and then the Lake Merritt monster in Oakland, which I had no idea about.
Okay.
So now we're learning together. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. ECMC said it's, up the whole West Coast, up to Oregon and Western Washington too. He's in the Pacific Northwest, so he's up there in Bigfoot country.
Yes.
Yeah. Bigfoot country. Bigfoot country.
Yeah, Oregon and like the whole Pacific Northwest, very Squatch friendly. But also military presence up there too. And then again, if we're going into like the idea of interdimensional beings, like are we seeing UFOs? Are we seeing Bigfoot? Are they the same thing?
Yeah, which is something we can definitely get into tonight. I guess the first way, to kind of jump back to the beginning here, Darcy, tonight, is to learn a little bit more about you in terms of how you got into the paranormal and kind of how all this stuff started for you.
So there's a couple things, like one being a Gen Xer. I, grew up with In Search Of, like that's the first spooky kind of show I saw, Leonard Nimoy on In Search Of. I think I knew Leonard Nimoy on In Search Of before I ever knew him on Star Trek.
Star Trek?
Yeah. So In Search Of, Ripley's Believe It or Not, that's incredible. And then Unsolved Mysteries comes in there, plus like amazing stories, right? And so all of those things, plus asking for a birthday if my parents would subscribe me to the Time Life Mysteries of the Unknown book series, which I still have. So that was like part of it. And they definitely were all for that. Like they watched all those shows with me. It's not like they were like, you and your things. And I was also the kid that during like summer reading or going to the library, I checked out all of the ghost books, all the paranormal books that I could. But we had a family ghost story before that. And I apologize if anyone's heard me tell this before, but it's a pretty cool ghost story. My father was from England. He's since passed. He's not the ghost story. But when my mom and him were first together, they went to England to visit, and my mom really wanted to sleep in like a 4-poster bed in a manor. And my dad, being the fine guy that he was like, I'm going to make this happen. And so in Sheffield, which is where my dad is from, which is in Yorkshire in the northern part of England.
Gotcha.
Because I always clarify that because I say like, oh, my dad was from England. They think like posh London. I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. Steel mining and coal town, Sheffield. Yeah. So they get this space and they, have a great time there and, have dinner and drinks and, have a great evening. And they go to bed and my dad wakes my mom up in the middle of the night and he's like, oh, all that ruckus. Can you hear that? And my mom's like, what are you talking about? Like, you've had too much scotch. I hear nothing. And he is like, how can you not hear that? And what he can hear is 2 people fighting next door, a man and a woman who are like really into it. And she's like, go to bed, Alan, go to bed. And he can't go to bed. He makes them sleep with the lights on, which my mother was less than pleased about. And so the next morning they get up and they go to like the front desk and are talking to the gentleman. And they were like, what was that ruckus last night? And the gentleman tells them, oh, they've come early this year. Because normally these spirits don't show up, I believe, till the spring, and it was fall.
Okay.
And it turns out that the man that used to own the manor, his surname was Staniforth. They think these spirits showed up because of my dad, Staniforth, staying in the manor. And what had happened is that the lord of the manor had an affair with one of the maids. She got pregnant. She confronted him about it, and he ended up killing her and feeding her to the pigs outside.
Wow. Holy smokes.
Yes. And so this very active space showed up for, and like, this is some, like killing her and feeding her to the pigs. I found out older, like my parents didn't tell me
They
that,
didn't
you
tell
know,
you that. Yeah.
they weren't like,
I mean,
and then this happened. But that is like, that was the first ghost story I ever really heard, which is this family ghost story. And then also growing up as a kid around mostly adults, people were like, oh, you're an old soul, like all of those things. So it was just very like that woo was all encouraged. And it just carried on for all my life. Now, during like high school and college and things like that, or college the first time, because when I went back and got my degrees, I was a grown up. I kind of put a lot of that away for a while because of being in communities of faith where I would still was like all for it. They not so much. But then was like, why am I not doing the things that I love to do? And so coming back into the paranormal space. So
well, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. It's tough. Sometimes you have to set aside a little bit. I kind of had to do that when I got my master's in history, just because you're having to work within their framework. And
Totally.
so it's like, let me learn how to do this their way. And now I can listen to Graham Hancock again.
Yeah. When I was getting my degrees, I totally thought I lost my sense of humor. I was like, am I not funny anymore? And I was like, no, my head is just jam-packed with all the reading, all the facts, and like your framework starts shifting because you're like, oh, okay, I'm having to figure out these other things. So yes, I'm right there with you, Frosty.
It's a doozy for sure. All right. So, so that's interesting, kind of going up with those things. The thing that came to mind for me is you hit the nail on the head, talking about In Search Of, because I'm very much like, my dad was a Trekkie. So I think I had seen some of the original shows. I mean, since I was born, but I remember specifically finding In Search Of like on my own on like a Saturday morning. Of course, there are reruns at that point. And, that was a huge show for me. Unsolved Mysteries, of course, a huge show for me. Those books you talked about, I'm pretty sure that Ginny and her parents still have at their house, because we've read through those. I'm pretty sure that's the same books. And then curiously, for me, I think another one was Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating now is that my brother has a radio show, and his radio show on Saturdays comes on an hour after Coast to Coast. And I'm like,
wow.
Can I just have the hour in between you? Coast to Coast. Like, can I get the Coast to Coast recap? But it's like, it's so, and his show has nothing to do with this. He does like home and design. And I'm like, can I just let me have that little sweet spot? I'll go on the radio that early in the morning. I don't have a problem. But it's like so close and yet so far away.
That's so far away. Yeah, that's great. So, which actually, I've been hearing talks about a movie that they're going to be doing for that supposedly. So, have you heard anything about that?
I have not heard that, but I would like to see it.
They are working on a movie about Art Bell, and I always forget his name. I am going to look it up real quick because he's a really great actor. Dead air. Ginny's telling me Paul Giamatti. Paul Giamatti is supposed to be playing Art Bell. Yeah,
I would totally watch Paul Giamatti as Art Bell.
I know, right? Because I love Paul Giamatti, and then just seeing how they do that, I think is going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. There's lots of things that are supposed to happen and never do. So we'll see if it actually makes it or not.
Well, and then my hope is like, is it not just looks, but then like I want Paul Giamatti to also be really excited about getting to play Art Bell.
Yeah. Well, he is. Yeah. Well, he had a paranormal talk show.
Paul did?
Yeah. It's called, I think it's something about like the Chinwag, the Great Chinwag or something. He did it. He started it during the COVID and all that. So
What?
he's a huge Art Bell Coast to Coast fan.
Okay, so that even okay.
Yeah.
See now,
So, yeah.
See, we learned together. We learned
Yeah.
together.
I've been nerding out about it for a while, and no one else really cares. So, when I
that's
have
amazing.
the chance to spread the good news to somebody,
Now I'm gonna have to go back and be like, Paul Giamatti, hey. Now I'm like, how do we?
Yeah.
I'm like being Hollywood adjacent. Like, how do I get connected? Like, I'm gonna work on this for us.
There we go. Yeah, let me know for sure. Yeah, it'd be great. And you imagine it's something if you want to talk about, I would think that would be something cool to do. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go. I was pausing.
So when we looked at, kind of going off of those shows and getting that, how did that turn into you kind of getting more involved in the paranormal community, and how did that going into some things we're going to talk about tonight, like the podcast and stuff that you've done? How did all that stuff kind of start for you?
So, when I decided to kind of I don't want to say return because that sounds bougie. Like I'm like, here I am, everyone. That was not it. But as I started getting back, yes, I'm here. Getting back into kind of this space, and it's whether you want to call it woo, whether you want to call it doors opening, synchronicity, is all of these different things, whatever it is. But I think when I finally was like stepping back into this space, I had started listening, getting into paranormal podcasts because I can't I've been in the podcasting space for a while, tied to like the LA Podcast Festival and doing a lot of comedy stuff and things like that. And so I ended up meeting my friend Ryan Singer, who I mentioned. He has a podcast called Me and Paranormal You. And we met through not paranormal connections, but through comedy connections. Because he was opening for Mark Maron. I went to see Mark Maron. He and I ended up chatting. And then I started checking out his podcast, and he and I started talking, and I appeared on there. And then we deep dove into like problems in the paranormal and people, deciding that, and I'm sure for you having degrees in history, things like, the Elders of Zion and all of these problematic things that people love to push forward. So we ended up talking about those and deciding to do like a series on them called Problems in the Paranormal for his podcast. So I was diving deep into like, how can I bridge these worlds? Because as I'm sure you know, that sometimes when you're in the world of academia and then you're in the world of the paranormal and the high strangeness, the esoteric, like all of that, sometimes the academic world is like, you do what? I'm like, I swear, I'm like, it's all good. And really wanting to kind of, find that space. So we were doing that. I was connecting with folks, starting to make friends in this space, which was really amazing because, one of the things I'm so grateful for with the internet and how connected we can be is it's like all the people I would want to have been friends with as a kid, I get to be friends with now. And it's like my weirdness is not alienating any longer. It's like celebrated and embraced. So
yeah.
And so then as that was happening, my friend who happened to be at the time a vice president at the CW said, hey, we're going to pitch this paranormal show as a companion piece. Are you interested in auditioning for the host? And I was like, totally. Now, mind you, as somebody who's been in the entertainment industry, entertainment adjacent, like I know how all of these things go. Like, I'm like, we'll see. This is okay. So I like put together my resume for her because I did radio for a long time. I had a show for like 8 years here in Southern California. Like, so I have interviewing skills. I have all of those things, like done that. So put that all together, sent it, and was really like, we'll see. And then it happened so fast for us. Like, it was just like, okay, we're going to do a phone call. And I'm like, okay, great. So then I did a phone call. And then they're like, oh, we're going to have another call. And I'm like, okay, great. And then they're like, we're going to have you come for a meeting. And I was like, what? Okay. And so the day that I went to, it's one of those like surreal days where you're just like, what is my life right now? Because it was just a surreal day as it was, even if the podcast had never happened. But I was thinking about this story recently because I love cemeteries, and I was doing some cemetery tourism with a friend recently, and we were at Forest Lawn in the Hollywood Hills. And I went to that cemetery the day I had this big meeting because I wanted to get up early. I didn't want to be late for this meeting. And I ended up meeting this very sweet Armenian man who was there visiting his recently deceased wife. He ended up having a book of poetry that he gave to me, and then was like trying to get me to go to coffee with him. And I was like, oh, sir, I'm so sorry. Like, I have to go to this meeting. He's like, we will have coffee one day. And he gave me this book it is in Armenian. I need someone to translate it for me.
Oh, wow.
He gave me this book, and I was like, this is a beautiful moment. And then for years, he like texted me like, Happy New Year, Happy Easter. Like, it was so cute. And so then as I'm like going to the meeting, we're sitting in this, head of marketing's office, which when you're a head of marketing, you have a very large office that has its own sitting area. And for me, being somebody who does death and dying, I saw that this person had won an award for a show about a show called My Final Days. And I was like, well, there's a talking point, right? That perfect. And so we were able to chat about that. And then, he offered me, like, we're in this group of people, and and the candy dots, the like little gummy candy. He's like, I love dots. Someone just sent me dots. Do you want a fresh box of dots? And I'm like, I'm going to have whatever you say right now. And so we just had this great meeting. We talked about stuff. It went really well. And again, I'm still like, this could maybe never fly. And then as I headed out after the meeting, I got in the elevator and Dave Coulier was in the elevator.
Oh, wow.
It was just a very surreal LA Hollywood day.
Yeah. Cut it out.
Cut it out, right? I know. Yeah. And I always think of him more from Out of Control on Nickelodeon first before Full House. But I was like, here's Dave Coulier. And so but then it happened, and I was still in awe. And though we started recording just before the pandemic really got into swing, we got to record at the Warner Brothers Ranch, which was amazing. So I got to be there to record, and like then see all like these all these sets for all these famous shows and movies, and the team there was incredible. Joshua Sterling Manning, who did my all of like the sound production, made it happen beforehand, made it happen during the pandemic. Like, it was just an incredible crew. And I got to talk to really cool people about the most amazing stuff. So it's a longer version of that story, but it was just one of those things that I truly was just like, I'm going to trust that if the doors open, they open, and they open. Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Well, you got to talk about a lot of interesting things with that. So did you get to, did you have like input on what the episodes were going to be, or was that kind of done around you?
No, we actually, it was a mixture of both, because since the podcast was a companion piece to one of the CW shows, part of what we were going to do was tie into episodes of the TV show that were happening and and that's why we had some guests that were like Jen's co-host, like Ryan Sprague co-hosted with Jen on the show. And we had some folks who had been with her before. Sarah Lyon, same thing. But then it was also like, how about we talk about this? And how about we talk about these different things? And so, there was, as there is in any pitch situation, there's some stuff that got pitched that didn't happen, but other things that did. And so really getting that input, that having it be really a conversation was great. And then from there, I just had a lot of freedom in what I wanted to do, which was awesome. Like the only thing they really gave me was like time constraints. Like, hey, let's keep it to like an hour. And I'm like, great. But yeah, I got to pitch those things. So with now I have like, it's been a little while since Mysteries Decoded has happened, but let's see. I know the Montauk episode was based on an episode that they did.
Okay.
Witches was based on an episode that they did.
Okay.
Area 51 was based on an episode that they did, but the rest of it was stuff that I had pitched.
Okay.
So, Black-Eyed Children was fun. Cursed Objects was really fun. Hauntings was really fun. And The Conjuring House was like, that was something that they had not done a show on, but it was a conversation both of us, both like the heads, like the higher ups, and then myself also wanted to have.
Wonderful. Well, that's really that's kind of one place I wanted to talk about, actually, because when I was going through and listening to some of those and looking at what you covered on there, the one that jumped out to me actually was the Black-Eyed Children, because we haven't had a guest to specifically talk about Black-Eyed Children on this show yet. It's been something that really grabbed my attention several years ago, but I wanted to kind of get your opinion on it, being that you had discussed this, because I want to know I wanted to get your kind of thoughts on the Black-Eyed Children, and also kind of like where that seems to be going, because I haven't heard, at least it hasn't been talked about as much lately, about people having those experiences. Yeah.
The Black-Eyed Children seems to have, not that it's not happening, but it's definitely not in I don't think it's the popular thing that's happening right now as far as the paranormal goes. And I think that like experiences are always happening for people, right? And the ones that we hear a lot about tend to be the ones that make it into, news circuits or, into the creepypasta, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I also think, because of my lens of American studies, the how and why of American history and culture, I'm always also thinking about, why are these things catching fire when they do?
When they do, yeah.
And so, like with Black-Eyed Children, at first, as I was kind of diving into that, I really at first came away being like, all right, maybe this just is a creepypasta. Maybe this is just something, because you always have to be weary about something that doesn't appear before 1996 when the story appears, right? And it was very interesting because like I'm, reading these accounts, and whether you believe in Black-Eyed Children or not as an actual phenomenon, the accounts are creepy.
Yeah, it is. It's very, it is very unnerving.
They're so unnerving because we've all I think about how we've all met a person that just seems a little off. And I don't mean that I'm not trying to diagnose anyone or pathologize anyone, but when we just have an uneasy feeling about someone, right? And so this idea of these people, these kids insisting they need to come in your house or come into your car is no, thank you.
The phone,
no,
drink of water.
I need to drink water. No, thank you.
Yeah.
But then talking to David Weatherly and reading his book about Black-Eyed Children and thinking about, and it's it was kind of a light bulb moment, but also kind of a no duh moment, as I call it, when he's talking about just because people weren't calling it Black-Eyed Children doesn't mean these kinds of accounts weren't happening. They just had different types of language around it. And I was like, brilliant.
Okay.
Yes. And so, and especially the account in the book where he is talking about the gentleman who was on the Texas highway and all of a sudden there is this child out of nowhere. And I have been on that same stretch of Texas highway. And you would know it's so dark out there and it's so desolate.
Mm-hmm.
If a light in a house was on, if a car light was like, you know, because it lights up everything around your car.
Yeah.
And so being able to kind of put myself in that space and understand this was like,
Mm-hmm.
that really, really blew me away. That really blew me away. And so for me, I don't have a definite belief on like, this is
Mm-hmm.
where they are or they aren't. But I'm also one of those people that when people share their experiences, especially when people who are not looking to get, publicity out of it or become a TikTok star. Ooh, been in that situation. And in Roswell, CMC
Mm-hmm.
Air Boss just said, again, right? Like those desolate spaces, those spaces where there's not a lot of people, like when people tell these stories, these are not easy stories to tell.
Yeah.
Because ridicule, people don't believe people when they tell these
Mm-hmm.
stories. And so I definitely believe that these folks had experiences that happened. So there's the one side of that for me. Then there's the other idea of like, does this also, like Dr. Andrea Kidda was on there because Andrea Kidda has written a lot about Slender Man in contemporary legends, right? So what people consider urban legends, they don't just happen in urban areas, they also just happen in places. So in her writing about that, we were kind of talking about the idea of like, does black-eyed children then become this tulpa, right? Like this thing that
like a thought form.
Thought form, something we've kind of spoken into existence, believed into existence. But again, with my own encounters with people, like I've not had a black-eyed children encounter, so I'm not putting that out there. But in my own encounters with
right?
people, yeah, right? Yay, right? Especially when it's like, and then I got very sick, and then these things, I'm like, I'm good. Yeah. But I've definitely had encounters with folks where I was just like, oh, that's not okay. Whatever's going on right now is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wouldn't, to me, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the topics that kind of, I did at first, like I was like very kind of critical of black-eyed children, but like the more that I looked into it and listened to some radio shows and stuff about it, I think I might have heard an interview with David Weatherly. And I was like, I started thinking to myself, like, that's a really precarious position to be in because, it would be one thing if it was an axe murderer at your door, but, it's not.
It's like,
it's not someone you necessarily are just going to call the cops or call 911 real quick because it's just a kid on your porch who's asking to come in for a drink of water.
Right.
Like, who are you going to tell them? And then that's been, something I've talked about with Jenny a lot lately. It's like, I wonder if that phenomenon is like dying off because not many people are talking about it anymore. But then it makes me wonder too, like, when you look at, Bigfoot or UFOs, we already have a lot of people who have experiences who don't report. So if you had an experience with black-eyed children, how many people are actually going to file a police report about that?
Right. And I also wonder too, like how much is having doorbell cameras changing that?
Oh, that's true too.
Like perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Like if this is an entity that does exist, a being that does exist, are they maybe not approaching with those? Or are people seeing people approach? Like we've all seen those like compilations of the, doorbell camera footage, the Ring camera footage of like the 10 creepiest,
Yeah.
Like, so is it one of those things where people are like, I'm not answering that?
Yeah, I'm not answering. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's really good because, it's, I don't answer my phone anymore. I mean, typically, it's like text message or nothing. I mean, the only person who calls me is a telemarketer, and unless I know the person, and there's situations, but the door is kind of the same way. Like when I get a package delivered, I just get a picture on my phone that it's there. Like there's not that much interaction, so I can't. It's very rare that I actually have to open my door and have a conversation with anybody.
Right.
Very unlike we were talking about earlier, being Gen X, where we grew up having to knock on the door and that was common. Now it's not so common anymore.
Well, and just think about the fact that like for fundraisers for school, we used to went door to door selling to people.
I know. All the time. I was like in Boy Scouts. All the time.
They're like wrapping paper, chocolate bar, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, like whatever. They're just like, go out there, build your career as a door to door salesperson, right? And it's like, I feel like people with kids these days would never be like, just walk in the neighborhood.
Or it's just all done over phone now.
Oh, yeah. Right. And so, thinking about, has technology changed that phenomena? And do we just, I don't know.
I always thought there was a odd similarity between the Black-Eyed Children and the Men in Black as well.
Right. And there are talks that those are connected, right? Because people have talked about this idea that the Black-Eyed Children are connected to them in different ways. Like there may be a messenger first, these different kinds of, occurrences happening, but that they are connected. And so, and also, I mean, this is also one of those things that is challenging with everything that is going on right now with, police showing up in very disguised ways and federal agents showing up in very disguised ways. It's like, is that maybe not something we're also hearing about a lot because the reality of what's going on is very different. Maybe the reality of what's going on is maybe too close to home for some folks. I don't know.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't know. Like I said, I was like, when I first heard about Black-Eyed Children, I was very dismissive, just like in the first kind of 15 minutes of it. And then as I listened to them talk more and more about it, it's like, you know what, there's something about this that's really creeping me out. And so it's been something that I've wanted to look into and talk about a little bit more. So when I saw that was one of the topics, I was like, man, I got to make sure I talk to Darcy about Black-Eyed Children. So I will promise, if I hear, let me know if we get some new Black-Eyed Children reports.
Yes.
And for using chat too, also remember you can always post that on the Discord, because I'm always on the outlook to make sure to see what's going on with that.
There are two things I don't want to encounter: is Black-Eyed Children and shadow figures, and I've dealt with shadow figures, so let's keep the Black-Eyed Children up.
Yeah, well, that probably goes to another one of my favorite topics, which deals with shadow people. I have seen shadow people before. I've had some experiences there. It's quite unnerving how many people I've talked to that saw red eyes when they were kids, and some that it's just stayed to like adulthood, like they see the shadow, they see the red eyes, but also more specifically the Hat Man.
Oh, the Hat Man. I don't want to see the Hat Man. I don't want to see Slender Man. Like anything that is in that uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Nope. And I was in New Orleans in the middle of last year, and we were at a site where people were talking about they had seen, like, the Hat Man had appeared, and it was this. I was on a cemetery tour at night, as I'm one to do, but they were talking about how the Hat Man had appeared a few times, and then there was a photo that said Hat Man. I was like, I'm good. I'm all right.
Yeah. Oh boy, the Hat Man. All right, well, let's take a break for 1 second. We have reached the top of the hour here, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. So we're going to take a little break to reset. If you've joined us since the beginning of the show, our guest tonight is Darcy Staniforth, and we are talking about all things paranormal tonight. No specific topic. We're going to talk about all of it because I have someone to nerd out with on paranormal things tonight. So we're going to talk about the whole thing, or as much as we can, I guess, in our 30 minutes that we have left. So welcome in. Thank you everyone for hanging out tonight. Thank you everyone for all the comments and chat. Always appreciate you. We'll try to get those up tonight so everyone can see, especially on the uploads and stuff like that of you guys participating and what you guys have to say. Looking at our thing here, I just wanted to say thank you, Norse, for the 15 stream streak tonight. And Jamie followed. So we are at 299. Thank you so much for the follow. We appreciate it. If you are watching the show or hanging out with us now, then you already know Medium Jenny Lee. But did you know you can book a private session, explore her spiritual services, or check out her latest content all in one place? Head over to mediumjennylee.com. Whether you're seeking guidance, answers from beyond, or just curious about what the spirit world has to say, Jenny offers personal readings, mentorship, and more. Don't miss your chance to connect directly. Visit mediumjennylee.com and take the next step on your spiritual journey. Your journey to the weird is just a click away. In a world of mass production, there's still a place where fire meets steel and tradition comes alive. At Vincent's Forge, every piece is forged by hand, unique, durable, and built to last. Each creation carries the mark of true craftsmanship. Own something forged by fire. Own something that tells a story. Vincent's Forge, handcrafted, unforgettable. Available now on Etsy. And the last thing I want to mention before we dive back into the show tonight is Hanover Tavern Paracon. All right. It is going to be not this coming weekend, but the one after, the 30th, 31st of January. It's a Friday and Saturday. Me and Jenny are going to be there. Jenny will be feeling 100%, I'm sure, by then. We have plenty of time for her to heal up before that. So hopefully we're all well and healthy, and we're going to be there for the whole thing. So we're going to have the Hanover Tavern Paracon. I've gone to quite a few different Paracons now. It is always one of my favorites. They do an excellent job. Steve Dills does an amazing job always getting everything done for that. It's an absolutely wonderful location because not only do you have the paranormal, but you just have a really great historical spot right, in Virginia. So you get a little bit of colonial history and stuff like that there as well. It's a great place to go to. All kinds of wonderful vendors. And Darcy is going to be joining there. What are you going to be talking about at the Paracon?
So I will be a virtual guest. So I'm very excited to be joining in any way that I can. But I'm actually going to be doing a presentation about entitled Souls on Film. And it is about Victorian post-mortem photography, but also touching on spirit photography as well. So giving some historical context around photography, post-mortem photography, and then also how spirit photography comes about. So we'll be talking about William Mumler a little bit.
That is great because, see, Jenny's missing it because she was a photography major, and that was one of the projects that she did was taking she did like a post-mortem project, except she just made everyone in her family play dead.
Got it.
When she took the photographs when she was going through college. So it was like definitely something she was into. And she did have a photography series that she did also for like roadkill and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then of course now is a medium, so it definitely deals with spirit art and stuff like that as well. So that would have been something that's really interesting to get into. I can guarantee you that she'll be paying attention to that one for sure.
I'm really excited. I am sad to not be there in person, but I'm very excited to at least be able to present to folks virtually. And Steve is he's like, I'm a tech nerd. You're going to see us. We're going to see you. It's going to be great. I'm like, fantastic. That's all I need.
Yeah, I think you're in good hands. So that'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be great. All right. So Hanover Tavern Paracon, tickets are still available. I'll have a link down in the description below. if you're watching this later, to be able to go get tickets to Hanover Tavern Paracon and be able to knock that out. So Hatman, we're going into Hatman. Not a fun thing. I've dealt with shadow people a little bit. I've had to deal with some. I've lived in some places with activity, but I've seen, some things. Not had to deal with Hatman specifically, but that one definitely creeps me out a little bit. What is probably one of your favorite paranormal topics that you like to really get into?
I mean, because of the fact that I lead tours around haunted historical places, like I love hauntings. Like I'm a huge fan of hauntings. Like cryptids are very fun and cozy. But I think the thing I spend the most time with is hauntings. And for me, I think it's twofold, right? Because I love being able to teach people about history, but then tell them a good ghost story associated with it is fantastic. And that's one of the great things about being with Haunted Orange County is that I get to do that, right? Because, people, and especially students, and I'm sure you encounter this yourself, Frosty, like students are like, oh, history is not really my thing. And I'm like, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. I'll get you in this, right? And so thinking about, getting to find out, like, I love the history of it. I love the ghost stories, but then I also, and this may not be popular for everyone, I love debunking because as I was talking to someone the other night just on a tour, I was like, look, debunking is great because then when something happens and we cannot debunk it, and we've tried to debunk it every which way to Sunday, like, something's happening. And that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And, that's one thing I don't think that a lot of people realize. I guess for at least most of the paranormal investigators that I know and what I've done, I don't like cheaters. I kind of grew up like if I won a Monopoly, I wanted to really win a Monopoly. I wanted to have the satisfaction of knowing that I won the game. I'm very much that way with the paranormal. Like, I don't want to make up anything. I don't want to hoax anything. I don't want to, because when I have that experience, I want there to be the satisfaction of having that experience. And I think for the most part, I think most people who are investigating are spending their time to go out and do this stuff and, usually not making any money, but spending a lot of money to go have these experiences are doing the exact same thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the thing that, I definitely know folks that have been on paranormal TV. I work with folks that have been on paranormal TV. But I think the challenging thing is that, paranormal TV, people forget how heavily edited it is. And I make a joke on one of my tours about a night that a group had come to one of our locations and just was getting nothing. And then trying again and getting nothing. And I make the joke like, and that gives you a little peek into what it is to be a paranormal investigator, is we will sit in the dark for hours talking to whatever, hopefully talking to something and getting nothing, right?
Yeah.
And, that takes a real love and commitment. And not everyone is really ready for that. And I get that, right? Like everyone has their different thing, but that is also one of the cool things as a history nerd myself, is like, I get to go into cool historic places and not just like big name places. Sometimes it's like, hey, do you want to come check this out? Yes, I do. Right. And it's something you've never seen on a TV show. You've never seen in, any other space. But even when people come to investigate the museum, because when, people see my title as paranormal coordinator for the Heritage Museum, like, what does that mean? Like, it means if you want to investigate, you talk to me. And I then get to tell people about the history in that space as well. And for me, it's like, if we can continue to build this bridge between the academic side of things, and I don't just mean academic as in formal degrees, I mean in people taking an interest in history and historic places. And then we can also bring some fun with, the paranormal, the investigation, and all that. Because even if you have a very even if nothing happens on a paranormal investigation, it's still a really cool thing to get to go do.
Yeah. 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 You got to have those experiences. And if you're social, you get to go out and whether you're with a team of friends or if you're going out and meeting new people and having those experiences, shared experience for sure. I think it can be really exciting. So for me, I feel like with paranormal investigations, still my most favorite form of evidence is probably through EVP. Do you have a favorite form of evidence?
I do love EVPs. The team that I investigated for the past couple of years with Golden State Paranormal, we did a lot of EVP work. I think, and this is like an answer, non-answer, but I think my favorite form of evidence is when I'm in a space and I figure out what kind of equipment or what kind of mechanisms the spirits like to interact with. And that is always neat, because I think sometimes, I've got my kit is literally sitting outside my office door because I'm going this weekend to the Queen Mary to participate in Strange Escapes. I'm not speaking there or anything like that. I'm going to be a participant and see friends and hang out and also be on the Queen Mary, which is one of my favorite places, right? Mm-hmm. But I have all this equipment, and then I have, like at the Kellogg House at the Heritage Museum, they like really simple stuff. They will work with us on EVPs. They will use the dead bell, and they will turn on and off flashlights with us. But the more high tech it gets, the less interested they seem to be. And so that is always exciting to go into a space and figure out what they've done. I think one of my favorite, I think I really like, if we talk about like evidence or maybe equipment, I really like equipment that I know the ins and outs of how it works.
Yes.
And so then I can also, in my own mind, be like, okay, I know that this is not A, B, and C setting this off. This is truly being, triggered by something else that I cannot see. And, I want to come around a piece of equipment and hit it and punch it, and like not punch the equipment, but, like make sure that that's not setting off in those ways. But I would say, going back to your comment about EVPs, Frosty, like probably one of the most profound experiences I've had paranormally came from EVPs. And so for me, because we came to figure out that we believe that Hiram Kellogg is still in the Kellogg House, and that evidence came through EVP. And so I do definitely have a soft spot for EVPs for sure.
Yeah. EVPs, I still think a good EVP is like, it's still just, I don't know, like gives me goosebumps, especially because, and I wonder too, like why EVPs aren't taken more seriously from the scientific community, because I mean, there are some, sometimes it does definitely take a little bit of like, there can be discrepancy about what's being said or what's happening in EVP. But there have been some that I've heard that have been absolutely clear as a bell, where there's almost no question, almost to a point where, well, this is either a real EVP or this has been hoaxed. It's got to be one or the other, which I guess is one of the problems with it. But, for being around people that I trust, or even just getting them myself, there's been a couple where it's like, holy smokes.
Yeah, where you can't, there's no debating what that said, right? When we talk about Class A EVPs, one of the buildings we have on the property at the Heritage is a space called the Mag Farmhouse, and it was owned by the Mag family. Or most recently, someone's like, it might be Mog because of Germany and they're German immigrants. I was like, oh, maybe Mog. We refer to it as the Mag, very probably Americanized pronunciation of that name. But that house doesn't always have a lot of high energy in it because we're not in there all the time. The museum staff isn't in there all the time. We don't have investigations in there all the time. And so when we were there, the first real night of investigation, it was taken a while to get anything. A lot of grumbles and growls at first, which might sound scary. I think they were just like, why are you bothering us? Like they just were not having it. And they definitely were not performing like on command. Like it wasn't one of those nights, where you could like, oh, we're saying this and this happening. And so every time we'd not talk to them, then they'd start showing up. Like if we're talking amongst ourselves. So we went into a different area of the house. We were sitting by the staircase. And part of the reason we don't do a lot of investigations in the mag is it needs a lot of refurbishment. There's no electricity that runs in the house. The walls are down to studs and you can't walk every place. It's not safe to walk every place. That's what I jokingly call sometimes floor. But I really try and trust my gut on if I'm feeling that we should try something. And this was one of those nights where I said to Martin and Stephanie, my investigation partners, I said, you know what, let me just try telling them like what we want to do with the mag. So I'm sitting on the stairs and Martin had the DR60 out. And I just explained to them for a couple minutes about how we want to turn the house into a museum learning center and home for the Orange County Archives. So you hear me explaining that and how different things are going to be. And when we played it back, you heard my explanation. And because the DR60 cuts out, any space or will only, record if it hears sound, immediately after I finish, you heard a voice say, "Thank the Lord." And I was just like, what? Like, and wasn't me and it wasn't them. And that, I think that's another thing to understand about investigation that may be a very like, people just like go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. But like, I don't investigate with people I don't trust, right? I don't go on paranormal trips with people I don't trust. So if I'm in a space and I ask you like, did you do that? Or was that you? I need to know if someone says no, I can trust their no impeccable. Like there's no question about it. And with Martin and Steph, I was in the same room. So I know they didn't say anything. On top of it, and I tell people this when I share the story, is that they're from New Zealand. They're New Zealand natives. So they have very thick New Zealand accents. Yeah. And that was not a New Zealand accent on that EVP.
Wow. Yeah, it's always interesting, especially like whether you're going to get the activity or not. We did have a question that came across a little while ago that kind of goes with the EVP stuff, but with the format for photography as well. I'm a pro photographer. What is the best way to capture the abnormal with traditional video, digital, or film photography? I think talking about which format, digital or film.
So I am not a pro photographer, but I think it comes into, for me, and maybe Jenny can ask this as she was a photography major, but I think one of the things that I think about is, can you also debunk your photos, right? So for an example, I've noticed, and I get sent these quite a bit from tour guests, is that with the iPhone, I don't know what it is about the iPhone, but something about the iPhone, when we are in the Kellogg, it picks up green orbs as a reflection from the light. And it's always been with iPhones. And so people are like, oh my gosh, look at this green light. And I'll be like, hey, just want to let you know, so glad you sent that to me. But it's like, it happens to be this way that iPhones deal with this. With anything, I think a good rule of thumb is take a bunch of pictures in a row. Because, some of the weirdest stuff will come up, like the photo before it, totally fine. The photo after it, something strange shows up. The photo after that, totally fine again. And that is, I had some guests that had come from England on one of my tours. And they lived across from an old churchyard. And so they were out on I think it was Christmas Day night, talking to their neighbors and celebrating. And they just were taking a picture of the snowfall and taking a picture of this churchyard. And the gentleman showed me these photos. And it was like, photo 1, churchyard and snowfall, totally normal, totally fine. The very next picture, it all of a sudden looked like all of these things, and it wasn't the snow, coming out of the churchyard.
Wow.
And then photo after that, back to the photo again. And you're just like, what is this? So I think taking those things in a row, whether that be film, because I know like on my camera, I can get like sports action. So it's like almost looking like a little stop motion video.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of photos in a row. And then for me, like again, just be willing to debunk.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I have a friend who's, filming a short film right now and showed me a picture yesterday at a meal of a double exposure. They were doing a large format photography for principal photography, and they have an old bellows camera, and it came out this cool double exposure of one of their stars, and it looks like there's this whole other apparition in it. But again, they're very aware it's a double exposure.
Yeah. This whole conversation reminds me a little bit, not to bring up Coast to Coast AM again, but I will.
Bring up Coast to Coast as much as you want for us.
I remember kind of following this from, when we were kind of moving towards digital, which tells you how long ago that was. There was a group that used to come on the show quite a bit that would show off EVPs. And I remember a caller who had asked, like, if they had started using digital recorders yet, because they were still using analog tape recorders. And the group, and I don't remember who the name of the group is now, but they said that they didn't think that digital would work, that it was a connection with the analog itself and like the magnetism that they thought was responsible for the EVPs. So they were like, we don't use digital. We don't really plan on using digital, but maybe we'll give it a try and we'll see what happens. Well, a year or 2 years, whatever it was later, they came back on Coast to Coast AM, and they actually talked about how they had so much success with digital, and it completely surprised them, and they had no clue that digital would work. And now they had to like rethink what was causing, the EVPs to be captured and all these kinds of things. So I imagine that could kind of be the same in terms of photography, whether you're doing digital or analog. It seems like these things show up regardless. But it would be interesting to see, what, if you had an analog and a digital at the same time and what was capturing what.
Yeah. And, I try and I need to get a new analog tape recorder, but I try and use an analog tape recorder on investigations as well as the digital stuff. And,
so you're using both? I
really try and use both.
Okay.
And like fresh tapes can get either like I scour a lot of thrift stores for like if someone just like here's tapes, because on eBay they're very expensive, right?
Okay.
But thinking about both of those just to see, because again, like I don't have any idea. Like, I don't have all the answers, right?
Yeah.
And so why not cover all the bases? Let's have a video going. Let's have analog going. Let's have digital going. Have a film camera. Have Polaroids. Like, and I know that is like definitely coming from a space of like a privilege of being able to have all those things for sure. But like, you can find a tape recorder at a thrift store, consignment shop stuff for pretty cheap. And people are, recreating Walkmans and things like that. So you can get these things. The key, I think, is really fresh tape. So you're not getting any kind of sound bleed over something else.
Okay. So CMC said, I have not picked up abnormal images from digital photography involving ghosts, only UFOs. CMC, have you shared UFO pictures? You have to throw those up in Discord. Yeah, that's right. Digital was introduced in large part in 2003. Yeah, that's roughly the time when all those things were kind of being switched over. That's interesting too, that the UFO stuff would be seen differently there. Oh, you have shared the UFO photos. Okay. You have to repost them in our new Discord over there so I can check them out again if you have access to them, if you have time, CMC. Um, all right. So we have a few minutes left, I guess, really briefly, because I wanted to get into this and maybe we'll just have to talk about this another time. But to kind of briefly go into it, you did an episode on Area 51. There's been a lot of stuff coming out over these last several years when we talk about probably, look, yeah, it's hard to pick. It's like picking children, but when you talk about topics of the paranormal, I have to say that probably UFOs and ET are probably my 1A. What's your thoughts on all the things that have been going on over the last couple of years with UFOs or UAPs, as they like to call them now?
We do need a whole other show on that. Let me try and be succinct in this.
Yeah.
I don't mind calling them UFOs. I know people get really spicy about UFO versus UAP. The key is...
I still go UFO.
Yeah, the key is unidentified, right? Like, I don't know what it is. Aerial phenomena, flying object, whatever that is. I know people are really calling for disclosure. And and we've seen some, we've seen Congress, we've seen people come out and be like, yeah, we have things that we don't have explanations for.
Yeah.
But I also know that, shifting culture and society doesn't happen overnight, and shifting people's frameworks doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, this might bum some people out. I'm sorry if it does, but like, I really don't feel like people are ready for full disclosure. If there's something that is really being hidden, I don't know that people are ready for that. Because if that, we're not just talking about, you're like, there's like, when people talk about full disclosure, they have a certain idea about what that means is going to be disclosed.
Yeah.
But what if, like, I watch a lot of true crime, and I was watching a documentary today, and this woman's discovering that her mom's fiance is not who he says he is. And she goes, I thought I had found it all. I had no idea what the full truth was. And I was like, yep. And so we, because if disclosure comes in, we're talking about not just cultural and societal things shifting. We're also talking about religious systems possibly being dismantled. All new religious systems coming up. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many things, like, not just one basis. Then when we're talking about like Space Force, right? Yeah. Okay. Like, I work with veterans on my university. They have a Space Force flag up in their resource center because it is a branch of the military. So it's like, if we're militarizing around things, we're maybe not just worried about other countries, we're worried about other planets. And I would be silly, I think, with how vast the universe is, to think that there's not other life out there.
I had almost convinced myself to go against the Brookings report that human civilization was not ready for disclosure. I'd almost convinced myself that we were getting there, that there would be a minority of people who wouldn't be ready, but the majority would be able to handle it, until they released more footage of the U.S. military launching a Hellfire missile at a UFO.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, if someone has the ability, whether to get here interdimensionally or over a vast quantity of space light years away, do you really think that you're going to be able to take it down with the Hellfire rocket?
Well, and on top of that, I think, science fiction has always been an incredible predictor.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I will just talk about, like, in the United States, a lot of times in a lot of old science fiction, even newer science fiction, our reaction as a country hasn't been great or very well measured. And so, we're shooting a Hellfire missile at a UAP, a UFO,
Yeah.
not trying to consider there may be a language barrier, there may be a communication barrier, and like, let's just fire a missile.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of like, man, we really haven't. But we are getting ready to get to the end of the time here. So we'll have to, maybe we can talk a little bit more about UFOs another time.
I would love
Maybe
to come
another
back.
time.
This has been great. I can't believe how fast this time has
I
flown.
know,
I saw
right?
the comment about you being in your zone. This is also me being in my zone. Like, yeah, let's talk about all the stuff. Let's
Wonderful,
go.
wonderful. So I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about what you got going on, what you got coming up before we end tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Haunted Orange County, we do haunted historical tours. They're not jump scare tours, they're haunted historical. We do those all year long. I currently am the ghost host for the Kellogg House, and then also downtown Santa Ana. So if you're local or visiting the area, we do them all year. So you can find me. Hanover Paracon, which I'm very excited to be a part of. So there is virtual programming and in person. So I hope folks can join that. Other schedule stuff is happening, but we're still figuring some stuff out, but I do know I'll be returning to Dragon Con this next year. So I'm very excited about that. What I'll be talking about, I don't know. But if folks want to follow me, they can find me at Darcy Staniforth on Instagram and on Twitter X, and then Miss Darcy Staniforth on TikTok. And paranormal stuff, nerdy stuff, dog stuff. But I always post the things that are coming up for me there. So
excellent. Sounds wonderful. All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and say good night to all you listening at another time in another place. We will see you all next time.